Chapter 1. The Sink and the Wrapping Paper. Jack Reynolds knelt on the cold tile floor of his daughter's kitchen, his hands deep in the underbelly of a stubborn sink. The wrench slipped, clanged against the pipe, and echoed like a tiny bell announcing defeat. He muttered under his breath, "You'd think after 30 years of fixing things, I'd get one that doesn't fight back." The smell of damp metal and old detergent clung to the air. He tugged at the pipe again, grunting, while his knees protested against the hard floor. At 53, his body had started filing complaints he couldn't ignore. He twisted the wrench one last time, and the clog surrendered with a gurgle that sounded almost smug. Jack sat back on his heels, wiping his hands on a rag. "Victory," he announced to no one in particular. He expected Emily to laugh, maybe toss him a sarcastic, "Congrats, Dad." That was their rhythm, him fixing, her teasing. But the apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of music from the living room. He stood, stretched his back, and followed the sound. Emily was at the coffee table, her head bent over a roll of glossy wrapping paper. She was humming along to some upbeat tune, scissors in hand, carefully trimming the edges. A neat box sat in front of her, already half-wrapped in shimmering silver paper. Beside it lay a card with bold letters, "Happy birthday, proud to have you as my dad." Jack froze. The words hit him like a wrench to the chest. He stared at the card, then at Emily, who was biting her lip in concentration, folding the paper with precision. She didn't notice him standing there, didn't see the way his face shifted, confusion first, then something heavier. For a moment, Jack thought maybe she'd gotten the card wrong. Maybe it was for him. But no, his birthday was in October and this was December. And Emily, she hadn't even texted him on his birthday this year. He remembered sitting alone with a store-bought cupcake, telling himself she was busy. Jack cleared his throat. "Looks fancy." Emily glanced up, startled, then smiled. "Oh hey Dad, yeah it's for Tom. His birthday's tomorrow." Tom, the stepdad, the man who married Jack's ex-wife 10 years ago. The man who, apparently, was now Dad. Jack nodded slowly, forcing a smile. "Nice paper. Thanks." Emily grinned, oblivious to the storm brewing behind his calm eyes. "I wanted it to look good. He's been, really great." Jack swallowed hard. "Yeah, great." He stood there longer than he should have, watching her tape the corners, her fingers moving with care he couldn't remember her ever showing for him. Not for his birthdays. Not for Father's Day. When was the last time she'd even said, "Happy birthday, Dad"? He couldn't recall. The memory was a blur, like an old photograph left in the sun too long. Something cracked inside him. Not loud, not violent, just a quiet fracture. For years, he'd told himself their bond was solid, even as life chipped away at it. He'd ignored the signs, the short texts asking for help, the calls that always started with, "Dad, can you?" and never with, "Dad, how are you?" He'd believed it was a phase, that she'd come back around. But standing there, watching her wrap a gift for another man with pride in her eyes, Jack saw the truth. He wasn't her father anymore, not in the way that mattered. He was a utility, a guy you keep behind glass and break in case of emergencies. Jack forced a chuckle, light and hollow. "Well, sink's fixed. You're good to go." Emily looked up, distracted. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." The words should have warmed him. Instead, they felt like crumbs tossed to a stray dog. He nodded, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. The winter air slapped his face as he stepped outside. Jack zipped his coat, shoved his hands in his pockets, and walked to his truck parked under a flickering streetlight. He sat behind the wheel, staring at the steering column like it held answers. He wasn't angry, not even bitter, just hollow, like someone had scooped out the center of his chest and left him with echoes. He thought about the last decade. Emily growing up, his ex-wife moving on, Tom stepping in. Jack had stayed in the background, fixing sinks, changing tires, paying for emergencies. Always available, always dependable. And for what? So he could watch his daughter beam over a gift for another man while he couldn't remember the last time she called just to talk? Jack gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale. He whispered to himself, "You're done, Jack. Done being the guy behind glass." The words surprised him, but they felt right. He'd spent years clinging to relevance in her life, fighting for scraps of attention. Tonight, he saw the truth. He was the only one fighting. And he was tired. He started the truck, the engine rumbling like an old friend urging him forward. As he drove through quiet streets lined with holiday lights, Jack made a decision. No more fixing sinks. No more waiting for calls that never came. He loved Emily, would always love her. But he needed to stop bleeding himself dry for someone who didn't see him. It wasn't punishment. It was survival. Back in her apartment, Emily tied the last ribbon on the gift and smiled. She didn't notice the silence after the door closed. Didn't see the way her father's shoulders sagged as he walked away. She loved him, of course she did. But somewhere along the way, she'd stopped showing it. And tonight, without knowing it, she'd carved a canyon between them. Jack pulled into his driveway, the house dark except for the porch light he'd left on. He sat in the truck for a long time, listening to the tick of the cooling engine. His phone buzzed, a notification from a home repair forum he'd joined years ago. He stared at it, then laughed softly. No more fixing other people's leaks, he murmured. Time to fix my own. He stepped out, boots crunching on frost, and looked up at the night sky, stars scattered like tiny promises. For the first time in years, Jack wondered what it would feel like to live for himself, to wake up and not be waiting for someone else's call. Tomorrow was a new year, and maybe, just maybe, it was time for a new Jack. Chapter 2. The Silent Shift. Jack woke up the next morning to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. For a split second, he thought maybe, just maybe, it was Emily calling to wish him a happy new year. He reached for the phone, hope flickering like a match. Emily. Hey Dad, quick favor. My bathroom faucet's leaking. Can you swing by today? Jack stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button. The old reflex kicked in, the part of him that had spent years saying yes without hesitation. But then he remembered the silver wrapping paper, the card with "Proud to have you as my dad," and the way his chest had felt hollow driving home last night. He set the phone down and walked to the kitchen. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. He poured himself coffee, black and strong, and took a slow sip. The bitterness matched his mood. The phone buzzed again. Emily. Please? It's dripping everywhere. Jack exhaled, long and steady. He picked up the phone and typed, Jack. No, I can't help you with that. He stared at the words. Short. Final. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. The reply came fast. Emily, wait, what? Are you busy? Jack typed slowly, choosing each word like a craftsman fitting pieces together. Jack, I've already told you. I'm not helping. You're an adult now. You can figure it out. Or call your stepdad since he's so wonderful. He paused, reading the last sentence. Petty? Maybe. But it felt good. Like releasing a valve that had been under pressure for years. He set the phone down and waited. Silence stretched across the kitchen like a taut wire. Then the screen lit up again. Emily. Dad? What's going on? Did I do something? Jack didn't answer. Not yet. He wasn't ready to explain the fracture in his chest, the years of slow erosion. He wasn't angry, just done. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, staring at the message like it was written in a foreign language. Her father had never said no. Not once. He was the guy who showed up with tools and a smile, who fixed everything from broken sinks to broken hearts when she was 16 and crying over a boy. And now, I'm not helping. The words felt sharp, like glass under her skin. She typed, deleted, typed again. Emily, can we talk, please? No response. She tossed the phone aside and pressed her palms to her eyes. What had changed? He sounded cold. Not angry, but distant, like someone who'd already packed his bags and left. Emily's stomach twisted. She thought about last night, the gift, the card. Tom's birthday. She'd been so focused on making it perfect, she hadn't even noticed her dad standing there. Had that upset him? No, that couldn't be it. Could it? She chewed her lip, dread creeping in. When was the last time she'd done something for her dad? His birthday. She couldn't even remember the date. October, maybe? She'd meant to text him. But work had been crazy. And then, God, had she even sent a message? Her chest tightened. She opened her contacts, scrolled to Mom, and hit call. Hey, sweetie. Her mom answered, cheerful as always. Mom, Emily said, voice low. When's Dad's birthday? Pause. October, right? The 10th? Or maybe the 12th? Why? Emily closed her eyes, nausea rising. I don't know. I think I messed up. Jack spent the afternoon in his garage, sorting through old tools. The smell of oil and sawdust was comforting, familiar. He picked up a rusted wrench, turning it in his hands like an artifact from another life. He thought about Emily's text. Did I do something? And felt a pang. She hadn't done anything wrong. Not really. People drift. Life moves. But somewhere along the way, he'd become a background character in her story. The guy who fixes things. Nothing more. Jack set the wrench down and wiped his hands on a rag. He wasn't disowning her. He loved her, always would. But he needed to stop bleeding himself dry for someone who didn't see him. He needed to live. He glanced at the calendar pinned to the wall. December 31st. Tomorrow was a new year. A clean slate. Jack smiled faintly. No more glass box, he murmured. Time to break out. That night, he sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. He wrote one sentence at the top of the page. New Year's resolution. Start living for me. Underneath, he added. Stop being on-call dad. Learn something new. Say yes to life. He tapped the pen against the paper, thinking. What did he want? For years, his wants had been buried under everyone else's needs. He'd forgotten how to dream. Cooking. He'd always wanted to learn real cooking, not just scrambled eggs and grilled cheese. He opened his laptop, searched for classes, and clicked the first link that popped up. Beginner's Italian cooking. Couples welcome. Jack frowned. Couples? He hesitated, then shrugged. What the hell? He muttered, hitting register. Maybe they'd pair him with another solo. Or maybe he'd just learn to make pasta and laugh at himself. Either way, it was a start. Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, guilt gnawing at her. She thought about calling her grandmother to ask about Dad's birthday, but the idea made her stomach churn. How could she not know? How had she let things slip so far? She grabbed her phone, opened a new message, and typed, "Emily. Dad. I'm sorry. Can we talk tomorrow?" She hit send and waited. No reply. Emily curled up under the covers, heart heavy. She didn't know how to fix this, but she knew one thing: she had to try. Jack's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the message, read it, and smiled faintly. He didn't reply. Not yet. Tomorrow was a new year, and for the first time in a long time, Jack felt like it might actually be his. Chapter 3. The Resolution. Jack stood in front of his bathroom mirror, tugging at the collar of a shirt he hadn't worn in years. It was navy blue, a little snug around the shoulders, but better than the faded flannel he usually wore. He stared at his reflection, wondering when his hair had gone from distinguished gray to snowstorm. He ran a hand through it, sighed, and muttered, "You're not auditioning for a movie, Jack. It's a cooking class." Still, it felt strange, this effort. For years, his outings had been hardware stores and Emily's apartment for repairs. Now he was heading to a place where people laughed over pasta and drank wine like life wasn't a series of leaky faucets. He grabbed his keys, checked the address on his phone, and drove through streets glittering with leftover holiday lights. The world felt festive, alive. Jack felt nervous, like a teenager on his way to a first date, except this wasn't a date. It was a class. A simple, harmless class. He parked outside a cozy brick building with a sign that read, La Cucina di Amore, cooking for couples and singles. Jack frowned. Singles? That hadn't been on the website. He stepped inside, greeted by the warm scent of garlic and the chatter of voices. A woman at the registration desk smiled. "Name? Jack Reynolds," he said, trying to sound casual. She scanned the list. "Great. You'll be paired with Sophie." Jack blinked. "Paired?" She laughed. "It's more fun that way. Sophie's already here. She's at station 3. Jack followed her gesture and spotted a woman waving from across the room. She was in her 40s, maybe early 50s, with chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun and an apron that read, "Whisk me away." She had flour on her cheek and a grin that could light up a blackout. Jack walked over, feeling suddenly aware of his boots and calloused hands. Sophie extended a hand, her fingers dusted with flour. "Hi, you must be my partner in culinary crime," she said, voice warm and teasing. Jack shook her hand, smiling despite himself. "Jack, and I should warn you, I'm more of a microwave guy." "Perfect," Sophie said, eyes twinkling. "I'm more of a smoke alarm enthusiast." Jack chuckled. "Sounds like we're doomed." The instructor, a flamboyant man named Marco, clapped his hands. "Tonight we make risotto. Creamy, dreamy, and if you do it wrong, gluey." Jack glanced at Sophie. "Gluey sounds like my specialty." She grinned. "Mine too. Let's aim for edible." They started chopping onions, and Jack realized Sophie was terrible with knives. She held the blade like it was a live snake. Jack said, gently taking the knife. "Maybe let me handle that before we lose a finger." Sophie laughed, unbothered. "Fine, I'll stir. I'm great at stirring." She wasn't. Within minutes, the pan smoked, and Marco swooped in like a culinary superhero. "No, no, no. Risotto is love. You must caress it, not assault it." Jack bit back a laugh as Sophie saluted. "Yes, chef." By the time they added the wine, Sophie had spilled half the bottle on the counter. Jack grabbed a towel, shaking his head. "You're dangerous. And you're judging." She shot back, mock-offended. "This is a no-judgment zone." Jack smiled. "Fair enough." As the night went on, the kitchen filled with laughter and the scent of simmering broth. Jack found himself relaxing, joking with Sophie about their mutual incompetence. She told him she was a children's book illustrator, recently divorced and terrible at dating apps. "They're like garage sales," she said, sprinkling Parmesan with reckless abandon. "You dig through junk hoping to find something that isn't broken." Jack laughed. "Sounds about right." "And you?" she asked, glancing at him. "What's your story?" Jack hesitated, then shrugged. "Divorced. That. Handy with sinks." Sophie smiled. "Handy is good. I could use a guy who knows his way around a wrench." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Careful. That sounds like a pickup line." She grinned. "Maybe it is." By the time they plated their risotto, slightly gluey but edible, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years. Light, like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. Sophie clinked her glass against his. "To survival," she said. "To smoke alarms," Jack replied. They laughed, and for a moment, Jack forgot about silver wrapping paper and hollow drives home. He was here in a warm kitchen, with a woman who made him laugh until his cheeks hurt. Later, as he walked to his truck, Jack checked his phone. A message from Emily blinked on the screen. "Emily. Dad. Please call me tomorrow. I need to talk." Jack stared at it, then slipped the phone back into his pocket. Tomorrow could wait. Tonight was his. He looked up at the stars, the cold air biting his cheeks, and smiled. For the first time in a long time, Jack felt like life wasn't something happening to him. It was something he could taste, like risotto, imperfect but real. Chapter 4. Enter the chaos. Jack woke up on New Year's Day feeling different. Not young. His knees still reminded him of their age when he swung out of bed, but lighter. Like someone had taken a wrench to the rusted bolts in his chest and loosened them just enough for air to flow. He brewed coffee, strong and black, and scrolled through his phone. Emily's message from last night still sat there. Dad, please call me tomorrow. I need to talk. He stared at it, thumb hovering, then set the phone down. Not yet. Today wasn't about fixing leaks, hers or anyone else's. Today was about Jack. He showered, shaved, and put on a clean shirt. Not fancy, just decent. He looked at himself in the mirror and chuckled. You're going to a cooking class, not a wedding, he muttered. Still, it felt good to care. The class was held in the same cozy brick building, but today it buzzed with even more energy. Couples laughed over chopping boards, singles mingled awkwardly, and Marco, the flamboyant instructor, was in full theatrical mode. Today, Marco announced, sweeping his arms like a magician, we conquer the art of handmade pasta. It is sensual, it is romantic, it is messy. Jack grinned as he spotted Sophie at their station, already dusted in flour like a snow angel. She waved, her apron now reading, Pasta la vista, baby. You came back, she said, eyes sparkling. Figured someone had to keep you from burning down the place, Jack replied, slipping on his apron. Bold of you to assume I didn't come prepared. She held up a tiny fire extinguisher from her tote bag. Jack laughed. You're dangerous. And you're judging again, she teased. Careful, Reynolds. I bite. Jack raised an eyebrow. Noted. They started mixing dough, and Jack quickly realized pasta making was less about skill and more about wrestling sticky chaos. Sophie attacked the dough like it owed her money, flour flying everywhere. Gentle, Marco cried, swooping in dramatically. You are not punishing the dough. You are loving it. Sophie snorted. If this is love, it's toxic. Jack chuckled, trying to knead his own lump into submission. Mine looks like something you'd patch a roof with. Perfect, Sophie said. We'll call it rustic. By the time they rolled the dough, Jack's station looked like a winter storm had hit. Sophie had flour on her nose, her cheeks, even her hair. Jack reached out, brushed a streak from her forehead, and froze. Her eyes met his, warm and amused. Thanks, she said softly. Jack cleared his throat, stepping back. You're a mess. And you're charming, she shot back, grinning. As the pasta boiled, they shared stories. Sophie talked about illustrating books for kids, how she loved creating worlds where animals wore bow ties and solved mysteries. Jack told her about fixing things, about how he used to think being useful was the same as being loved. That's heavy, Sophie said gently, twirling a strand of pasta. But you're here now. That's something. Jack nodded. Yeah, feels good. Good enough to try dating again? She asked, half teasing, half curious. Jack hesitated, then smiled. Maybe, if I find someone who doesn't set off smoke alarms. Sophie laughed, tossing her hair. Then you're in luck. Meanwhile, across town, Emily sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, Googling how to fix a leaky faucet. The irony wasn't lost on her. She watched a video of a cheerful plumber explaining washers and valves, but her mind wasn't on pipes. It was on her dad. She replayed his message in her head. I'm not helping. You're an adult now. It sounded final, like a door closing. Emily felt a knot in her stomach. She loved her father. She really did, but somewhere along the way she'd stopped showing it. She'd taken him for granted, assuming he'd always be there, wrench in hand. And now, she wasn't sure. She opened her phone, scrolled to his contact, and typed, Emily, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I've been leaning on you without, actually being there for you. Can we talk soon? She hit send and stared at the screen, waiting. No reply. Emily sighed, pushing the laptop away. She didn't know how to fix a faucet or her father. But she knew one thing, she had to try. Back at the cooking class, Jack and Sophie plated their pasta. Slightly uneven, slightly chewy, but edible. Marco clapped dramatically. Bellissimo. You have made love on a plate. Jack smirked. Feels more like a hostage situation. Sophie laughed so hard she nearly spilled her wine. You're funny, she said, wiping her eyes. I like that. Jack felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the wine. For the first time in years, he wasn't just someone's emergency contact. He was a man laughing with a woman who saw him, not as a utility but as a person. As they walked out together, Sophie nudged him. Same time next week? Jack smiled. Wouldn't miss it. He drove home under a sky scattered with stars, his phone buzzing in his pocket. Emily's message waited, heavy and hopeful. Jack read it, then typed, Jack, we'll talk soon. Promise. He hit send and stared at the night. Life was messy, like pasta dough, but maybe that was the point. Messy meant real. And Jack was ready for real. Chapter 5. Emily's panic. Emily sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop open, phone beside her, and a knot in her stomach that refused to loosen. The faucet still dripped in the bathroom. A steady, mocking rhythm, but she barely noticed. Her mind was on her father. She scrolled through old photos on her phone. Dad holding her bike when she was 8. Dad cheering at her college graduation. Dad fixing the leaky roof during a storm while she made cocoa. Every image was a reminder of something she'd forgotten. He'd always been there. Always. And she'd been busy. Distracted. Wrapped up in work, friends, life. She'd assumed he'd always be there, wrench in hand, ready to rescue her. Until yesterday when he said no. Emily's chest tightened. She opened her messages again, staring at his last reply. We'll talk soon, Em. Promise. It was calm, polite, but distant. Not the dad who used to send goofy emojis or call her kiddo. Something had shifted, and she didn't know how to fix it. She typed a new message. Emily. Dad. I really want to see you. Can we do brunch tomorrow? My treat. She hit send and waited. Seconds ticked by. No reply. Emily groaned, flopping back on the bed. She thought about calling her mom again. But what would she say? Hey mom, I think I broke dad. No. She had to fix this herself. Her eyes drifted to the gift she'd wrapped for Tom, still sitting on the coffee table. The silver paper gleamed under the lamp, mocking her. She'd spent an hour making it perfect for her stepdad, and hadn't even remembered her real dad's birthday. The shame burned like acid. Emily grabbed her phone and Googled, how to make things right with your dad. The results were useless. Articles about writing heartfelt letters, planning fishing trips, just talking. She needed something bigger. Something that said, I see you. I love you. I'm sorry. Her gaze landed on the calendar. January. His birthday was in October. She didn't even know the day. The thought of asking grandma made her stomach churn. How could she not know her own father's birthday? Emily closed the laptop and whispered, You're a terrible daughter. Meanwhile, across town, Jack was laughing so hard he nearly dropped his wine glass. Sophie had just reenacted Marco's dramatic pasta speech from last week, complete with exaggerated Italian accent and wild hand gestures. You must love the dough, she cried, clutching an imaginary rolling pin like a sword. You must whisper sweet nothings to the noodles. Jack wiped tears from his eyes. You're insane. And you're boring. Sophie shot back, grinning. Come on, Jack. When's the last time you did something spontaneous? Jack thought about it. Fixing Emily's sink didn't count. Neither did buying a new drill. Signing up for this class? Sophie rolled her eyes. That's adorable. But I mean real spontaneous. Like karaoke. Jack laughed. Karaoke? I'd rather wrestle a clogged drain. Coward, Sophie teased, sipping her wine. What's your go-to song? Jack smirked. If I ever did karaoke, which I won't, it'd be something classic. Sinatra. Sophie grinned. Perfect. We're doing it. Jack blinked. Doing what? Karaoke. Tonight. There's a bar 2 blocks away. Jack chuckled, shaking his head. You're relentless. And you're coming, Sophie said, grabbing his arm. No excuses. Jack hesitated, then smiled. Fine. But if I butcher Sinatra, you're buying the drinks. Deal, she said, eyes sparkling. The karaoke bar was loud, neon lit, and packed with people singing off-key. Jack felt like a fish out of water, but Sophie was in her element, laughing, cheering, dragging him toward the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced into the mic, give it up for Jack Reynolds, the man who fixes sinks and breaks hearts. Jack groaned, but when the music started, Fly Me to the Moon, something shifted. He sang, voice rough but steady, and the crowd clapped along. Sophie beamed, swaying to the rhythm, and Jack felt alive. Not like a dad, not like a handyman, just a man having fun. When the song ended, Sophie hugged him, laughing. See? You're a natural. Jack grinned, breathless. You're trouble. And you love it, she teased. He did. God help him, he did. Later, as they walked out into the cold night, Sophie slipped her arm through his. Next week, pizza class. You in? Jack smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Back at her apartment, Emily stared at her phone. Still no reply. She opened a new tab and searched. Best gifts for dads who have everything. The results were cheesy mugs, socks, golf clubs. None of it felt right. She closed the laptop and whispered, I'll figure it out, Dad. I promise. Jack drove home under a sky full of stars, Sophie's laughter still ringing in his ears. His phone buzzed. A new message from Emily. Emily? Brunch tomorrow? Please? Jack read it, then typed, Jack. Okay. Noon. Your pick. He hit send and smiled faintly. Life was messy, like karaoke, but maybe messy was exactly what he needed. Chapter 6. Brunch and Boundaries. Jack woke up early, the winter sun barely peeking through the blinds. He brewed coffee, strong and black, and sat at the kitchen table staring at his phone. Emily's message from last night blinked on the screen. Brunch tomorrow? Please? He'd said yes. Noon. Her pick. He wasn't dreading it, not exactly, but he felt a knot in his chest. For years, brunch with Emily had been easy. Pancakes, laughter, her telling him about work or friends while he nodded like a proud dad. Today felt different. Today, he wasn't the guy behind glass anymore. He'd made a promise to himself. No more being a utility. No more bleeding for scraps of attention. Jack sipped his coffee and thought about Sophie. About her laugh, her fearless karaoke. The way she'd brushed flour off her cheek without caring. He smiled, then frowned. Was he ready for this, whatever this was? He wasn't sure. But he knew one thing, he felt alive when he was with her. And that had to mean something. Across town, Emily was in full panic mode. She'd picked a trendy brunch spot, bright, airy, with overpriced avocado toast. And now she was pacing her apartment like a woman preparing for trial. She'd Googled, how to apologize to your dad, at least 5 times. And every article said the same thing. Be sincere. Take responsibility. Don't make excuses. Easy to say. Hard to do when your stomach felt like a washing machine on spin cycle. She glanced at the gift for Tom still sitting on the coffee table, silver paper gleaming like gilt. She wanted to shove it in a closet, but that felt cowardly. Instead, she grabbed her phone and typed, Emily, can't wait to see you, Dad. I've missed you. She hit send and stared at the screen, praying he'd reply. Seconds later, her phone buzzed. Jack, me too, see you soon. Emily exhaled, relief washing over her. But the knot in her chest stayed. She had no idea how to fix this. She just knew she had to try. At 11:30, Jack pulled into the brunch spot's parking lot. He dressed casually. Jeans, a clean sweater, boots that didn't look like they'd been through a war. He checked his phone. No new messages from Sophie. He wasn't sure why he expected one. They'd laughed, they'd sung, they'd made pasta. But that didn't mean anything yet. Still, he felt a flicker of hope. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses. Emily was already at a table by the window, waving when she saw him. Jack smiled, walked over, and hugged her. She held on a little longer than usual, and he felt the tremor in her arms. Hey, kiddo, he said softly. Hey, Dad. Emily smiled, but her eyes were tight. You look good. Jack chuckled. You too. Brunch spot's fancy. Figured you deserved something nice, she said, fiddling with her napkin. They ordered coffee for him, a mimosa for her, pancakes for both. When the waiter left, silence settled like dust. Emily cleared her throat. Dad, I'm sorry. Jack looked at her calm. For what? For everything. Her voice cracked. I've been so wrapped up in my own life. I didn't see what I was doing. I didn't see you. Jack's chest tightened, but he stayed steady. You didn't do anything wrong. People drift. Life happens. But I hurt you, she whispered. I didn't even remember your birthday. Jack smiled faintly. October 12th. Emily winced. God, Dad. He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. Listen, I love you. Always will. But I can't keep being the guy you call only when something breaks. I need more than that. Emily nodded, tears brimming. I know. I want to fix this. Jack squeezed her hand. Then start by calling just to talk. Not for a favor. Just talk. Emily swallowed hard. Deal. They ate in silence for a while, the tension easing like a slow leak. Emily told him about work, about a new project she was excited about. Jack listened, smiling, but his mind drifted, just for a moment, to Sophie. To her laugh, her fearless grin, the way she dragged him to karaoke like it was the most natural thing in the world. Emily noticed his smile and tilted her head. You seem different. Jack chuckled. Maybe I am. Good different? She asked. Yeah, Jack said softly. Good different. Later, as he walked to his truck, Jack checked his phone. A new message blinked on the screen. Sophie. Survived karaoke hangover. Next week, pizza class. You in? Jack grinned, typing back. Jack. Wouldn't miss it. He slipped the phone into his pocket and looked up at the winter sky. Life was messy. Like dough, like family, but maybe messy was exactly what he needed. Chapter 7. The awkward invite. Emily stared at her phone for a full minute before hitting send. Emily. Dad. Brunch again next weekend? My treat. I want to make this a thing. She hoped he'd say yes. Their last brunch had been good. Awkward at first. Sure, but good. She'd apologized. He'd listened. And for the first time in months, she felt like maybe they could find their way back. Her phone buzzed. Jack, sure. Looking forward to it. Emily smiled, relief washing over her. She opened her calendar and typed, brunch with Dad, Sunday. Then, on impulse, she added, make it special. She didn't know what that meant yet, but she'd figure it out. Jack read Emily's message while standing in the aisle of a hardware store, staring at a display of wrenches. Old habits die hard. He chuckled, pocketed his phone, and walked past the tools without buying a thing. That felt like progress. As he stepped outside, his phone buzzed again. Sophie. Pizza class tonight. You ready to get saucy? Jack grinned, typing back. Jack. Ready as I'll ever be. The pizza class was chaos from the start. Marco was in rare form, tossing dough in the air like a circus act. Pizza is passion, he declared. If you do not feel the dough, you do not feel life. Jack and Sophie shared a station, laughing as their dough stuck to the counter like glue. Sophie tried to toss hers and nearly hit Marco in the head. Assault by pizza, Jack said, grinning. That's a new one. Hey, I'm adding excitement, Sophie shot back, brushing flour off her cheek. You're welcome, Jack chuckled, rolling his dough carefully. You ever think Marco's secretly auditioning for a soap opera? Please, Sophie said, sprinkling cheese like confetti. He's the star already. They laughed, and Jack felt that now familiar warmth in his chest. Sophie was trouble. Fun, fearless trouble, and he liked it. After class, they grabbed coffee at a nearby cafe. Sophie stirred her latte, eyes thoughtful. So, she said, what's next for you, Jack Reynolds? Besides becoming a pizza prodigy. Jack smiled. Honestly, I don't know. For years, my life was fixing things for other people. Now, I guess I'm figuring out what I want. And what do you want? Sophie asked softly. Jack hesitated, then met her gaze. Something real. Sophie held his eyes for a beat, then smiled. Me too. Sunday came fast. Jack dressed in his usual jeans and sweater, feeling oddly nervous. Brunch with Emily was familiar, but different now. He wasn't the same man who showed up with a wrench and a smile. He was something else. Someone who sang Sinatra at karaoke and made gluey pasta with a woman who made him laugh until his cheeks hurt. He walked into the restaurant and froze. Emily was at the table, waving, and next to her sat Sophie. Jack blinked. Hi. Emily grinned, a little too brightly. Surprise. I thought it'd be fun to meet your friend. Jack stared at Sophie, who looked amused. Friend? She said, raising an eyebrow. Emily flushed. I mean, Dad mentioned cooking classes, and I thought, why not? Jack slid into the booth, heart thudding. Well, this is unexpected. Sophie smiled, eyes dancing. I love surprises. Emily fiddled with her napkin. So, how do you two know each other? Jack cleared his throat. Cooking class. And karaoke, Sophie added, grinning. Your dad's got pipes. Emily blinked. Karaoke? Jack sighed. Long story. The waiter arrived, saving Jack from further interrogation. They ordered coffee for Jack, mimosa for Emily, cappuccino for Sophie, and when he left, silence settled like fog. Emily broke it first. So, you two seem close. Jack opened his mouth, but Sophie beat him to it. We have fun, she said lightly. Your dad's a good guy. Emily smiled, but her eyes were tight. He is. Jack felt the tension crackle like static. He wanted to say something, anything, but Sophie leaned in, grinning. So, Emily, she said, what's your specialty? Cooking? Karaoke? Plumbing? Emily laughed nervously. Definitely not plumbing. Jack chuckled, the sound easing the tension. Guess that runs in the family. By the time the food arrived, the awkwardness had softened into something almost funny. Sophie told stories about Marco's dramatic flower speeches. Emily teased Jack about singing Sinatra, and Jack sat back, watching the two worlds he'd kept separate collide like mismatched puzzle pieces. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. But maybe messy was okay. Later, as they walked out, Emily hugged Jack tight. Thanks for coming, Dad. Always, Jack said softly. Sophie winked. See you Tuesday, Reynolds. Pasta redemption. Jack grinned. Wouldn't miss it. As he drove home, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Life wasn't neat anymore. It wasn't predictable. It was messy, complicated, full of surprises. And for the first time, Jack didn't want to fix it. He wanted to live it. Chapter 8. The blow-up. Emily waited until Sophie was out of earshot before she pounced. They'd just left the brunch spot, the winter air crisp and biting. Jack was walking toward his truck when Emily grabbed his arm, spinning him around like a detective about to interrogate a suspect. Dad, she said, voice tight. What is going on? Jack blinked. Brunch. Don't play dumb, Emily snapped. Her. Sophie. Karaoke. Cooking classes. You've been busy. Jack raised an eyebrow. Is that a crime now? Emily crossed her arms, cheeks flushed. No, but you've never done stuff like this. You hate group activities. You think karaoke is torture. Jack chuckled. Turns out it's not so bad. Emily stared at him, eyes wide. Are you replacing me with her? Jack froze. What? Emily's voice cracked. You've been distant. You stopped helping me. You barely text back. And now you're singing Sinatra with some woman? What am I supposed to think? Jack exhaled slowly, leaning against the truck. I'm not replacing you. Feels like it, she whispered. Jack looked at her, really looked, and saw the fear behind the anger, the guilt, the panic. He softened his tone. Emily, he said gently, I'm not replacing you. I'm replacing loneliness. She blinked, tears brimming. Loneliness? Jack nodded. For years, my life was fixing things for you, for everyone. I thought being useful was the same as being loved. But somewhere along the way, I stopped living for me. Emily swallowed hard. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I know, Jack said softly. You didn't do anything wrong. People drift. Life happens. But I can't keep being the guy behind glass, the one you break in case of emergency. I need more than that. Emily wiped her eyes, laughing shakily. You sound like a motivational poster. Jack grinned. Maybe I missed my calling. She sniffled, then smiled faintly. So, Sophie? Jack shrugged, a little sheepish. She's fun. Makes me laugh. Doesn't ask me to fix her sink. Emily laughed through her tears. Fair point. Jack reached out, squeezing her shoulder. You'll always be my daughter. That doesn't change. But I need a life too. Emily nodded slowly. I get it. I just don't want to lose you. Jack smiled. You won't. But you might have to share me with karaoke nights. Emily groaned. God help me. Jack chuckled, opening the truck door. Come on. I'll walk you to your car. As they crossed the lot, Emily felt lighter. Not fixed, not perfect, but better. She still had work to do. Calls to make, birthdays to remember. But for the first time, she understood something. Her dad wasn't pulling away to punish her. He was pulling toward himself. Toward life. And maybe that was okay. Later that night, Jack sat in his living room, sipping coffee and scrolling through his phone. A new message blinked on the screen. Sophie, Marco says next week is dessert night. Hope you like chocolate. Jack grinned, typing back, Jack, love chocolate, hate drama, see you there. He set the phone down, leaned back, and smiled. Life was messy, like melted chocolate, but maybe messy was exactly what he needed. Chapter 9. Sophie's Curveball. Jack arrived at La Cucina d'Amore feeling lighter than he had in years. Dessert night. Marco had promised chocolate, drama, and a symphony of sweetness. Jack wasn't sure about the symphony part, but chocolate sounded good. Sophie was already at their station, apron on, hair pulled back, and a mischievous grin on her face. Reynolds, she said, holding up a whisk like a weapon. Ready to conquer tiramisu? Jack chuckled, slipping on his apron. As long as it doesn't involve karaoke. Don't tempt me, Sophie teased, eyes sparkling. The class was chaos in the best way. Marco strutted between stations, declaring, Tiramisu is seduction. If you do not feel passion, you will taste mediocrity. Jack and Sophie laughed as they layered mascarpone and ladyfingers, their hands brushing occasionally, sending sparks Jack tried to ignore, but couldn't. When the tiramisu was finally chilling in the fridge, Sophie leaned against the counter, sipping her wine. Her smile faded slightly, replaced by something softer. Jack, she said quietly, can I ask you something? Jack nodded. Sure. Where do you see this going? Her voice was calm, but her eyes searched his. Jack blinked. This? Us? Sophie said, no hesitation now. I like you. A lot. But I'm not looking for anything serious. Jack felt the words land like a weight. He hadn't expected this. Not tonight, not after laughter and flower fights and karaoke. He swallowed. Not serious? Sophie shook her head, her expression gentle. I just got out of a marriage. I'm still figuring out who I am. I don't want to jump into something heavy. Jack nodded slowly, forcing a smile. Fair enough. I hope that doesn't scare you off, Sophie added, her voice almost pleading. I like what we have, fun, easy. I just can't promise more. Jack stared at his glass, swirling the wine. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even disappointed, not exactly. But something inside him shifted. For weeks, he'd been chasing laughter, spontaneity, life. And now he had to ask himself, was that enough? Or did he want something deeper? Something real? He looked up, meeting her eyes. I appreciate you being honest. Sophie smiled faintly. Still friends. Jack chuckled. Still friends. But as they packed up their tiramisu, Jack felt a quiet ache. He'd spent years being useful, not loved. Now he was loved, sort of, but only in the shallow end of the pool. And for the first time, he wondered if he wanted to dive deeper. Across town, Emily was knee-deep in planning her redemption arc. She'd decided brunch wasn't enough. She needed something big, something that said, I see you, I love you, I'm sorry. After hours of brainstorming and rejecting ideas like custom mug and dad-themed socks, she landed on it. A surprise birthday celebration. Sure, his birthday was months ago, but that was the point. A belated party, complete with cake, candles, and everyone who mattered. She'd already texted her mom, her grandma, even her cousin who lived 2 states away. The responses were enthusiastic, especially Grandma, who said, finally, that man deserves a fuss. Emily smiled, relief washing over her. This was it. This would fix things. She pictured her dad walking in, seeing the cake, the decorations, the people who loved him. She pictured his smile, the real one, the one that reached his eyes. She opened her phone and typed, Emily, Dad, can you come by next Saturday? I need help with something. She hesitated, then added, Emily, promise it's not plumbing. She hit send and waited, heart pounding. Jack's phone buzzed as he walked to his truck. He read the message, chuckled, and typed back, Jack, okay, Saturday, no wrenches. He slipped the phone into his pocket, staring at the night sky. Sophie's words echoed in his head. I'm not looking for anything serious. Emily's message glowed like a beacon of hope. Jack exhaled, long and slow. Life was messy, like tiramisu, layers of sweet and bitter, but maybe messy was the only way forward. The turning point and the toast, Jack parked at the curb, toolbox riding shotgun out of habit. He almost laughed at himself. She'd promised no plumbing, yet here he was, armed like a soldier heading into battle. Old instincts die hard. He climbed the steps, knocked, and braced for the usual. A leaky faucet, a loose hinge, something broken. Instead, the door swung open to a burst of color and sound. "Dad!" Emily beamed, pulling him inside before he could blink. The living room was alive, streamers draped across the walls, balloons bobbing like cheerful sentries, and a cake crowned with candles waiting on the table. A banner stretched above the couch. "Happy belated birthday!" Jack froze mid-step. "What is all this?" Emily's smile wavered, nerves flickering in her eyes. "It's for you. I know I missed the real day, but I wanted to make it right." Jack looked around, his mother chatting with Emily's cousin, his ex-wife awkwardly nursing a glass of punch, and Sophie near the kitchen, laughing with Grandma like she belonged there. The sight hit him like a warm tide. For years he'd imagined rooms like this, full, noisy, alive, but never for him. Emily tugged his sleeve gently. "You okay?" Jack swallowed hard, voice rough. "Yeah, just surprised." "Good surprise?" she asked, almost pleading. Jack smiled, slow and genuine. "The best kind." The party unfolded in a blur of laughter and clinking glasses. Jack moved through the room like a man rediscovering gravity, hugging relatives, shaking hands, answering questions about karaoke, thanks to Sophie, who seemed determined to make that story public knowledge. Every so often, his gaze drifted to her. Sophie, animated and fearless, fitting into his world like she'd been there all along. Emily hovered near him, her energy bright but fragile, as if she were stitching something invisible back together with every smile. Jack felt it, the effort, the love, and it settled deep in his chest. When the cake appeared, candles flickering like tiny suns, Emily handed him the knife. "Make a wish," she said softly. Jack stared at the flames, the faces around him, and thought, maybe I already got it. As the first slice landed on a plate and laughter swelled again, Emily tapped her glass. The sound cut through the chatter like a bell, pulling every eye toward her. "Before we all slip into sugar comas," she said, voice trembling just enough to hush the room. "I need to say something." Jack turned, heart thudding, as every head swiveled toward her. Emily took a breath, her eyes locking on his. "Dad, I know this is late, really late, but tonight isn't about a date on a calendar. It's about reminding you that you're the center of this family, even when I forget to act like it. You've been more than a fixer of things. You've been the glue, and I'm sorry I let you feel invisible." Jack felt the words land like warm rain on dry earth. He swallowed hard, then raised his glass slowly, letting the silence stretch just long enough to matter. "You know," he said, voice steady but thick with feeling, "I've spent a lot of years patching leaks. Pipes, roofs, whatever life threw at me. Turns out, the hardest leaks to fix are the ones you can't see. The ones inside." He paused, scanning the faces around him. "Tonight reminded me of something. Sometimes you don't patch the old. You build something new." A ripple of murmurs swept through the room. Jack smiled faintly, lifting his glass higher. To family, to starting fresh, and to remembering that the best repairs aren't made with wrenches. They're made with nights like this. The cheer that followed was loud and messy, glasses clinking, laughter spilling like champagne. Jack felt it wash over him, warm and real. Later, when the candles had burned low and the playlist had drifted into soft jazz, Jack stepped onto the porch for air. The night was crisp, stars scattered like spilled sugar across a black tablecloth. Sophie joined him, her coat pulled tight, cheeks pink from the cold. "Nice speech," she said, leaning against the railing. Jack chuckled. "Improvised, like everything else lately." "That's the best kind," Sophie replied, her smile soft. "Unplanned, honest." Jack looked at her, really looked, and felt something settle inside him. Not certainty, not a roadmap, but a quiet sense that he was exactly where he needed to be. "Next week," Sophie said, nudging his arm. "Marco's teaching souffle. Think you can handle that kind of pressure?" Jack laughed, the sound rolling out into the night. "Pressure's my specialty." Sophie grinned. "Good, because I'm terrible at desserts." Jack shook his head, smiling at the stars. Life was still messy, complicated, unpredictable, but tonight, it tasted sweet. New beginnings and epilogue. The last guests had trickled out, leaving behind a living room littered with streamers and the faint scent of melted candles. Jack helped Emily clear plates, stacking them in the sink, a sink he deliberately did not fix, even though the faucet dripped like a metronome. Emily noticed his glance and smirked. "Don't even think about it." Jack chuckled. "Old habits die hard." "Not tonight," Emily said, nudging him with her elbow. "Tonight you're just dad. No toolbox required." Jack smiled, warmth blooming in his chest. "I can live with that." They worked in companionable silence for a moment before Emily spoke again, voice softer now. I meant what I said earlier. I'm going to do better. No more disappearing until something breaks. Jack looked at her, really looked, and saw the sincerity in her eyes. That means a lot, Em. She nodded, blinking back tears. I love you. Jack squeezed her shoulder gently. Love you too, kiddo. Later, when the kitchen was clean and the house quiet, Jack stepped onto the porch. The night was crisp, stars scattered like spilled sugar across a black tablecloth. Sophie was waiting, leaning against the railing, her breath puffing in the cold. Thought you might sneak out without saying goodbye, she teased. Jack grinned. Not my style. Sophie tilted her head, studying him. You looked happy in there. Jack nodded slowly. I was. It's been a long time since I felt part of something. Sophie smiled, her eyes warm. You deserve that. Jack hesitated, then said, about what you told me, about not wanting anything heavy. I get it. I'm not looking to rush into anything either. But I like this. I like you. Sophie's smile widened. Good, because I like you too. And I think we're pretty great at messy. Jack laughed, the sound rolling out into the night. Messy's my specialty. Perfect, Sophie said, nudging his arm. Because next week, Marco's teaching soufflé. And I'm counting on you to keep me from burning down the kitchen. Jack shook his head, grinning. Your trouble. And you love it? Sophie shot back, her eyes dancing. Jack didn't argue. He just looked up at the stars and felt something settle inside him. Not certainty, not a roadmap, but a quiet sense that he was exactly where he needed to be. Epilogue. Spring forward, 3 months later. Jack stood in his backyard, the scent of fresh-cut grass mingling with the aroma of sizzling bacon. A long table stretched across the patio, draped in a cheerful cloth, dotted with plates of fruit and pastries. Sunlight spilled like honey over everything. Emily was there, laughing as she arranged flowers in a mason jar. Beside her stood a young man Jack hadn't met before, her boyfriend, apparently, who looked nervous but polite. Grandma was holding court near the lemonade pitcher, telling stories that made everyone groan and laugh in equal measure. And Sophie? Sophie was at the grill, flipping pancakes with exaggerated flair, wearing an apron that read, "Whisk me away," the same one from their first class. Jack watched her, smiling at the memory of flower fights and karaoke nights. They weren't rushing. They weren't labeling. They were just living. And that was enough. Emily caught his eye and walked over, slipping her arm through his. Nice setup, Dad. Jack grinned. Not bad for a guy who used to think brunch meant cold cereal. She laughed, leaning her head against his shoulder. Thanks for letting me make this a tradition. Jack kissed the top of her head. Thanks for showing up. As the group gathered around the table, Jack raised his glass. To family, he said, voice steady and warm. To second chances. And to messy beginnings that turn out better than perfect plans. Glasses clinked, laughter spilled, and Jack felt it. The quiet, solid truth of a life rebuilt. Not patched. Not temporary. Real. He looked at Sophie, who winked over her coffee cup, and at Emily, who was smiling like she meant it. Jack breathed in the spring air, rich and sweet, and thought, behind the glass was lonely. Out here, life's messy, but it's mine.